We got our best indication yet that Caitlin Clark is on her way back toward a return for the Indiana Fever. Stephanie White did talk about Caitlin Clark, and I thought the comments were fairly telling. Here's what she had to say.
Caitlin, able to go through your little walkthrough or whatever you normally do, and what do you want to see ultimately to get comfort whenever the time comes?
Caitlin Clark just hit the practice court again, and the whole WNBA, they're in total panic mode. She's been out for weeks with that really annoying groin injury, but now the Fever's biggest star is back on the floor. And seriously, every single headline, every fan, even rival players are all asking the same thing. Is she coming back too soon, or is this exactly what Indiana needs to totally change their season? One thing's for sure, nobody in the league is ready for what's about to happen next. While Fever fans are absolutely hyped, those other players who've been taking shots at Clark all season, yeah, they're probably sweating.
Let's go.
We went through our walkthrough yesterday. Today it was very short, prior to game time. But she went through it yesterday, and I want to see her in practice. Live in practice. Want to see her continue to work to not just build endurance, but to be able to handle contact 94 feet as it's going to be in game, and to be able to do that and sustain from an endurance standpoint. And that's going to take multiple practices to make sure that there's no regression. And as most of us know, when we get fatigued, we look different, and see how she plays through fatigue.
Look, here's the real deal. The moment Clark stepped back on that court, the entire WNBA ecosystem just shifted. The league tries to act like it's all about equal competition, right? But everyone knows who's really running the show. Think about it. Ticket sales, huge TV deals, all those viral highlights, Clark's name is on basically all of it. Even if she's not fully 100% yet, just having her there instantly changes everything for the Fever and for the playoff race. That's why you can almost hear Angel Reese, Aja Wilson, and Commissioner Kathy Engelbert just gritting their teeth. Clark coming back totally messes with the story they've been trying to tell since she got into the league.
You see Caitlin Clark, this video captured by Chloe Peterson at Shoot Around. You can see Caitlin doing some work right there, just, warm-up work, back and forth on the court, but nonetheless on a basketball court. It's been a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark on a basketball court. Certainly a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark play basketball.
Remember when she first got hurt? The whole WNBA was saying the same thing. Indiana was cooked. This wasn't just a couple of games she missed either. Clark was out for almost 2 months. That kind of absence can totally ruin a whole season. And meanwhile, the Fever were already dealing with so many other injuries. Sophie Cunningham was gone. Chloe Bibby was sidelined. Sydney Colson and Erica Wheeler were out too. What was left on the court honestly looked more like a pickup game than a team trying to make the playoffs. Without Clark's insane gravity-pulling defenders and her deep threes opening up the court, the Fever's offense was just, well, like YMCA basketball. And that's not even a diss, it's just the truth. The rhythm was completely gone, and you saw it in their games.
Because if you look at the Fever injury list, it's just wild to see. It's like the Star Wars scroll at the end of one of those movies. It's just a endless list of players who have been out, back out of the lineup again, and really just a lineup that you could build if you were the Indiana Fever. You could roll out there if you were experimenting, depending on the situation and the nature of the game.
Now fast forward to this week, and that panic button, it's been completely smashed to pieces. Videos from practice suddenly hit the internet, showing Clark back in uniform, just shooting jumpers, jogging around, throwing passes. She's not cleared for full contact yet, but just seeing her move like that sent Fever fans into absolute meltdown mode. Comment sections blew up with all these predictions, hilarious memes, and huge debates about when she'll finally be back on the court. And meanwhile, you just know league executives were glued to their screens, biting their nails, because they get it. They know what the fans know. The WNBA without Caitlin Clark is just another league trying to get some attention. But with her back, everything changes.
And there was a little bit more footage here, and you see Caitlin involved on the floor yet again, even handling the ball, working with her teammates. I mean, that's an important sign there. to see her working with her teammates.
Now, here's the big dilemma. Should she even come back this season? But on one hand, the cautious voices are saying absolutely no. They argue her long-term health is way more important than any desperate run for the playoffs. Groin injuries can really stick around, and re-injuring it could be just catastrophic for her. But here's the thing, you've got the other side, right? Fever fans, the TV networks, and yeah, the WNBA marketing department, all screaming that this season is basically pointless without her. They're not thinking about they're focused on ratings, sold-out arenas, and playoff drama this year. And honestly, Kathy Engelbert isn't losing any sleep over Clark's long-term career. She just wants her golden ticket back on the court to save the league's bottom line.
I noticed when you're asking about Caitlin a lot, you bring up other rookies as well.
No league's ever about one player. That player could get hurt or whatever. So I think it's just to give recognition that in sports, people watch for compelling content and rivalries. And you can't do that alone as one person.
But this whole debate isn't just about Clark's health. You know, it's about the massive ripple effect her return would create. Just imagine Clark suiting up for a must-win game against the Sparks. Overnight, Indiana's chances of getting that final playoff spot would just skyrocket, while teams like Los Angeles and Golden State would be left totally scrambling. A healthy Clark doesn't just make Indiana better. She completely changes the whole playoff race, and that's exactly why those so-called rivals who've been talking trash while she's been out are absolutely terrified. Angel Reese basically built her whole brand on acting like she's Clark's rival. Aja Wilson has made her jealousy pretty clear too. And now, all those little cheap shots and the shade they've been throwing, it means nothing if Clark just steps back in and dominates again.
Look like we may actually have some legitimate movement in the direction of Caitlin Clark coming back, and I will sort of look at the schedule with you guys and try to determine what game I think she might actually...
From Indiana's point of view, Clark being out has been a super harsh reality check. Aaliyah Boston just hasn't looked like herself without Clark dishing those perfect passes and creating space on the floor. And Kelsey Mitchell, she's been working herself ragged, trying to carry the offense, dropping 20-plus points just to keep games close. But honestly, it still feels like a wasted effort without Clark there to create that rhythm. That's why fans have been clinging to Mitchell's big nights like their lifeline. It's just desperation basketball, and everyone knows there's only one player who can take away all that desperation, Caitlin Clark.
And this is a big game because the Sparks are right there with us on the in the playoff race, and they hold tiebreakers. By the way, so do the Valkyrie. All right, we do have one win. I believe it's one win over the Mercury. And then we've got a Sky team that we should beat, a Mystics team that we should beat, but you can't. I mean, who knows? I think they beat us in the last game. And then we close out the regular season with the Lynx. We're not making the playoffs without Caitlin Clark. There. Yeah, I said it. We're not making the playoffs without Caitlin Clark. I don't think.
And here's where things get even crazier. Clark coming back doesn't just light up Indiana's offense, right? It also totally exposes every single critic who's been talking trash while she was out. Coaches like Cheryl Reeve, who basically made it her personal hobby to dismiss Clark. Now they suddenly have to actually prepare for her again. And those players who thought they could just pile on while she was sidelined, they're risking looking totally foolish when she comes back and drains a 30-foot logo 3 right in their face. When Clark is on the court, the Fever are just flat out dangerous. And that danger is exactly why the whole league is freaking out.
All right. And it's these two games that are the big pivot games. Sparks, Valkyries. That game right there, that Friday night game, I have a feeling that she might actually return for that game.
And, hey, let's not forget about the referees either. These are the same officials who've just let Clark get hacked, shoved, and even poked in the eye without any protection. You honestly think they're excited for her to come back? Not a chance. Every single game with Clark back on the court is going to be under a microscope, with fans ready to tear apart every missed call and slow-motion replay within seconds. The league knows it, the refs know it, and the fans know it. Clark's safety isn't just about her career, it's about the league's own credibility. But here's the most fascinating part of this whole thing. Clark's mindset. She's just not built to sit and watch. This is the same player who carried Iowa through those insane March Madness battles, the same competitor who absolutely thrives when the pressure is suffocating. She's already restless, seeing her teammates give up leads from the bench. If she feels like she can play, she is going to push to play. The only real question is whether the Fever's medical staff or Kathy Engelbert's league office tries to stop her, purely for their own interests. Because make no mistake, the WNBA wants her back, but only on their terms. Clark, though, she's never really played by anyone else's rules.
Not necessarily probably team practices, but being able to put together, threes, fours, and different things that we can go against and match up with.
Great follow-up question by Tony East there, because that's been a question that people have wondered, is there even enough practice time? And a nice distinction drawn by Stephanie White there, which is important, which means she needs to see Caitlin Clark in practice, but it doesn't have to necessarily be official team practice, meaning they will be able to replicate what a practice looks like.
Honestly, when you step back and look at it, it's just chaotic and kind of hilarious, if we're being real. Think about it. Other WNBA stars miss weeks, and the only people who even care are the super diehard fans on Reddit. But Caitlin Clark, she literally just picks up a basketball in warm-ups, and suddenly the whole league is shaking like an earthquake just hit. That's why saying the WNBA is in full-blown panic mode isn't an exaggeration. It's just the straight-up truth. This entire product is totally dependent on her. And here's the kicker. If Clark comes back sharp, even at 80%, she could flip the whole playoff picture upside down overnight. But if she doesn't, the Fever are basically toast, and the WNBA knows its spotlight just fades fast without her on the court. So, let's break this down, starting with Indiana. Right now, the Fever are clinging to the playoffs by the absolute thinnest of threads. They've been trying to patch together their rotation with hardship players, rookies, and honestly, just whoever they can find. It's gotten so bad that if Indiana announced open tryouts tomorrow, nobody would even blink. Without Clark running the offense, this team has just been spinning its wheels, blowing leads, and handing away third quarters like they're free Costco samples. That's not basketball, it's pure survival mode.
They're not going to sit there with Caitlin Clark healthy and ramping up and just leave her there when they're in the playoffs if she's ready to go. They're going to figure that out on the fly, is how you take those comments. You also take them to mean that Caitlin Clark is back participating with the team, which we got a hint of on Sunday. They've been behind closed doors since then. You start to look at the schedule. I mean, I think at any point, it's getting more and more realistic. The more the Fever win without her, the more time is bought. Like, the ideal date may be that Chicago game on September 5th, and since it's at home and there's space between. But you can't totally rule out the road trip either, which still has the 29th, the 31st, and the 2nd.
Now, Clark coming back won't magically fix every single problem, but it definitely gives the Fever something they haven't had in weeks: a pulse. Her being there instantly changes the whole dynamic. Defenses have to shift to cover her. The spacing on the court opens right up, and suddenly, Aaliyah Boston isn't dealing with three bodies hanging all over her every single possession. Kelsey Mitchell can finally stop playing superhero for all four quarters. Even if Clark isn't sprinting at full speed, her gravitational pull alone makes Indiana dangerous again. And that, right there, is exactly why rival teams are so nervous. The Sparks, the Valkyries, even the Mystics, every team fighting for those last playoff spots knows what's coming. They absolutely do not want Clark back on the floor, especially not right now. Why? Because she doesn't ease back in. This is the same rookie who just casually started pulling logo threes in her debut, like she'd been doing it for 10 years. Clark doesn't jog into games, she storms in full throttle. If she's cleared to play, someone is about to get completely torched, and those bubble teams know it could easily be them.
Caitlin Clark is clearly ramping up, not being shut down. Now, there can always be a setback, but it seems like things are trending, certainly, in a positive direction. So, for all the doom and gloom, and of course, I'm not sitting here telling you the Fever are winning the championship or anything, but it feels like their fight is being rewarded. That team is playing hard, they're playing well, people are coming in and playing well on the fly, and Caitlin Clark has healed up.
Meanwhile, the WNBA itself has been dealing with a super weird dilemma. For the last month, they've actually had a little break from the constant Caitlin Clark watch. No highlight reels taking over SportsCenter. No trending clips dissecting whether the refs were protecting her. No endless debates on talk shows. The league just kind of coasted through a dull stretch, where mostly only hardcore fans were paying attention. But now that she's getting closer to coming back, that spotlight is slamming right back down. Every single foul, every shove, every missed call is going to be viral, all over again. And that's not just inconvenient. That's the exact kind of intense scrutiny Cathy Engelbert and the league office absolutely hate. They can't hide any officiating issues when Clark is in the game, because literally millions of eyes are glued to her every single possession. And that's a big part of the panic, too. Now, let's talk about the playoff math. Without Clark, the Fever are basically on life support. The Sparks have all these key tiebreakers. The Valkyries are right there, breathing down their necks. Just one or two more losses, and Indiana's season just evaporates. They absolutely cannot afford to split games anymore. They need a win streak, period. That's why her potential return has been circled like the Super Bowl. If Clark steps back out against the Sparks, it's a total do-or-die showdown. Lose that game, and Indiana might as well pack it up. But win, and suddenly the Fever are alive again, pushing back into the mix and really making the league sweat. That's not just pressure, that's full-blown panic, because everyone knows the WNBA definitely does not want its golden ticket watching the postseason from her couch.
I know a lot of you are like, why come back? Why come back? Well, look, if she's back and she can get in the flow and she does need to come back, I think with several games to go to get back and try to find her first rhythm for the year, really and truly, getting a good, then yeah, they become very dangerous with a big three. And look, I'm using that term loosely because Aaliyah Boston has not been great lately. Big.
Let's be brutally honest here. Clark, coming back is about way more than just Indiana. It's about the WNBA's entire survival in the national spotlight. The league has basically been writing her name all season. Sold-out arenas, these massive rating spikes, top-selling jerseys, and just endless clips flooding social media. Seriously, whether her shot goes in or clanks off the rim, if it's Caitlin Clark, it ends up in a highlight package. The WNBA knows it, the fans know it, and the sponsors definitely know it. Without her, the playoffs would just look like business as usual, the Liberty versus the Lynx, with the same tired storylines. But with her, suddenly casual fans actually care. That's why Cathy Engelbert and the league office will be doing cartwheels if Clark is back in time to push Indiana into the postseason. And don't underestimate the fan base, either. Fever fans have been put through actual hell these last 2 months. They've watched their team cough up double-digit leads, look like a G League squad, and generally just play really uninspired basketball without their leader. They've flooded comment sections begging for Clark to return, spamming memes about the team looking like Clark and basically replacement players. The second those practice clips dropped, you would have thought Indiana just won the lottery. Optimism surged like a tidal wave, and now every single fan is asking the same thing. When does she officially suit up again?
She's healthy. It's just getting her back to where she needs to be from a basketball standpoint. But all in all, you know, even Chloe Bibby, Stephanie White said would be hopefully back at practice by the end of the week. All things considered, it's got to be the best day in Feverland in a long time.
Of course, the risk is super obvious, right? What if she comes back too soon and just looks really rusty? Or even worse, what if she tweaks that groin again? See, groin injuries aren't like ankle sprains that you can just tape up and hope for the best. They linger, they flare up when you least expect it, and if you push too hard, too fast, she could be out for another 2 months, or even more. That's the brutal gamble Indiana's medical staff is weighing right now. And the truth is, the Fever aren't actually winning a title this season. At best, they're just barely sneaking into the playoffs as a lower seed. So, is it really worth risking Clark's long-term career for that? That's the big debate management is quietly having behind the scenes. But here's the part they can't control. Caitlin Clark herself. She is just not wired to sit quietly. This is the same woman who absolutely dragged Iowa through those intense March Madness battles and basically carried a whole program to national relevance. She doesn't duck competition, she runs right toward it. She thrives when the stakes are highest. That's why the shut it down crowd probably doesn't stand a chance. If Clark feels like she can contribute, she is absolutely going to push to play. And that's what makes her so magnetic. Fans don't tune in to watch her coast. They tune in because she refuses to shy away from the fire. And just imagine this scenario. Clark returns against the Sparks, drops 20 points, hits a clutch 3 in crunch time. The internet would absolutely detonate. SportsCenter would lead with it. Playoff odds would flip overnight. The WNBA would suddenly have its dream storyline. And that right there is the nightmare scenario for her critics. Those jealous players who've been subtweeting and talking trash, Angel Reese, Aja Wilson, and the rest, they would instantly be back in Clark's shadow. They know it, the league knows it, and deep down that's exactly why everyone's in panic mode. So now that she's getting closer to a return, the WNBA is trying to pretend to brace itself. But behind closed doors, they're absolutely panicking like never before.